So, you've heard about soul contract revocation. Somewhere on the internet, you've read about it, you've watched a video, and you thought about looking up this method and trying it out for yourself. But you've tried it, and the results are actually worse than you expected. Your life got worse. So, if that's possibly your case, let's talk about what happened and what can we do to fix it. First, there are many reasons why things can go wrong or seem like they're not working the way it's supposed to be. One of the things is once we start working on ourselves and getting better, whether it's like shadow work, self work, whatever you do to get better, physical, spiritually, doesn't matter. You're trying really hard to change. And now you are revoking some of the agreements. You pick an item or, really depends who you learn from to do this kind of technique and all the revocation process. But you pick an item and you start removing agreements. But then what happens is you just seemed overwhelmed. Things are just too much. You feel drained, you feel tired, you feel like you cannot finish the process. Well, if you are still working on an item you picked up, okay, I'm going to work on my communication skills. Maybe it's relationships, maybe it's financial stuff. And you just start and you list out some of the agreements you think you have in your life. And all of a sudden you're tired, you're sleepy as can be, you're exhausted, you want to drop everything, you have a really hard time looking within. It's because you've overrun the item. Basically, when we pick an issue, we have to be very specific about it. Because when people have issues in relationships or financial issues or communication or anything else in life, we usually pick out an item and it's very general. Yeah, I have relationship issues. How many relationships do you have in your life? Since you were born up to this moment, your parents, siblings, your relatives, friends, co-workers, acquaintances, anyone you have a relationship with every single person you've met and talked to. Some kind of relationship, better or worse, doesn't matter. But when you're addressing relationships, in the background, they're standing all of them are right there. So, okay, you're going to address relationship with your mom, with your sibling, with your lover. Well, you have issues with your lover. What kind of issues? Are you misunderstanding each other? Do you have a harder time communicating with your lover? And do you have a harder time with maybe being jealous? Maybe your lover not doing what you want them to do. Maybe you having some triggers and reacting and then causing some miscommunication or something else like that. We go deeper and deeper and deeper and we find a very specific item. Well, I have a hard time communicating with my husband about this topic. Good, we got very specific. Because while we were talking about just relationships, you have so many of them, and each relationship you have has some good things and bad things going on. So in the background, while you think you're focused on one thing, you have so many things running around that when you start listing your agreements, it's just too much, it's overwhelming, and your head's about to explode. Same thing with financial stuff. Oh, I have issues with money. Really? What kind? Well, I feel like I'm poor. Feeling like you're poor, being poor, wanting money, not having money, and then all of these things, and let's get specific. So usually what people do is they pick an item that is very general, all over the place, and it is very open to find hundreds of thousands of agreements that are controlling your life. To fix that, it would be really good to get very specific about what kind of issue do you have as regards that one thing. Relationships, pick one person, and what is it about that person or with that person that causes issues? And when it's communication, well, I have a hard time communicating with my husband about sex, about food, about going out, about wanting to go on a date, but feeling like he's not listening to me or something like that. So become specific. Same with money. I feel like I don't have enough money. Okay, still very general. Why do you feel like that? Well, I feel like I don't have enough money because, well, my work doesn't pay me enough. I would like to have more money. There's always all of these bills I have to pay. All of these things are items to address in the future. So we have to go deeper and deeper and deeper until we find this key thing that's really making it harder. So there's that. Another thing, why people will do soul contract revocation and have a harder time is that in life, we're kind of used to harder things. Sometimes our comfort zone becomes like, okay, we're used to it. But you might be used to things not going so well, and it becomes normal. I had a thing with like having scoliosis, and when my physical body was like not that good, like my body's like tense and like my muscles hurt, or like, just became normal. Oh, it's just the way it is. Doctors say that I can't change anything. Okay, just gonna live with it. And it became normal. It became normal to not be able to move in certain ways. It became normal to feel heavy, to feel tired. And that was like, okay, it is the normal. It is the comfort zone. If it gets better, it's out of my comfort zone. I'm not used to it. It's too good to be true. So that's my physical body, right? But people get that way with relationships. They get close to someone. It's like, hey, relationship is going really well. You and your lover finally, or like with a friend, you get comfortable, you get like chit-chatty, you're able to like become vulnerable. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Every other relationship I've had went sideways. They're about to abandon me. They're about to cheat on me. They're going to do something. Because we lived so many stories and we've had all of these negative encounters that all of the bad things became the normal thing. It became our comfort zone. We are used to being abandoned. We're used to being left. We're used to being cheated on. We're used to being lied to. And we're waiting for that. Like, no. The comfort zone is that thing's going to happen. And all of a sudden, when you are breaking your agreements, when you're trying to get better, you have this inner resistance because your whole life, or for quite a long period of time, you've been telling yourself a story about how bad it is, and that bad thing became the normal. So when you're working on getting better, you have this massive resistance because you're trying to alter the reality that you've been creating for so long. So now the resistance will be there until you address similar items to what you've been addressing. Whereas like relationships, for example, like, okay, being abandoned. You have to address every single person that has abandoned you. Every single time that you felt like I'm being abandoned. Where you went into a store with your father or mom or someone else, and they were like, okay, just wait here in the car. And you're like, oh. And you felt abandoned that time. For 10 minutes, they came back, everything's fine, but they left you and you felt abandoned. And then your lover or your friend, you have such a good connection with your friend and they find another friend, they get really comfortable and you're all happy. And one day they just kind of start spending more time with that friend, more and more, inviting you less, writing to you less, and you feel like you're losing your friend and you feel like you've been abandoned by your friend. Same with lover, oh, they found someone else. Oh, they're not talking to me anymore. The communication is getting worse. We feel like strangers. You feel like you're being abandoned by them. Where they cheat on you or do something else, you have this thing. So you would address all of these little situations that has happened to you in life as regards being abandoned. And you would watch how you feel, the agreements you've had where you felt pain, where you've had fear, where you've been hurt, where you've been disappointed, where you've had all of these expectations and, you have so much love and it wasn't expressed, it wasn't appreciated. And all of these things, good, you've addressed that. But just removing all of these things from yourself is not going to change things fully. You have to go into, okay, let's get practical. I've been removing a lot of my beliefs, a lot of the agreements I have, but in real time, real life practice. How can I get into that situation? Not necessarily to be triggered to be abandoned, but I know that every single time it got this good, then shit hit the fan. And they left me, and they lied to me, and that thing happened. And we know the story, we lived it. But are you ready to say, yep, it happened, but now I will change. Now I can work through it. Now we can communicate. I can tell that person that, hey, look, in past, I've had so many times where I've been abandoned, where, I see you getting a message from your friend and it triggers me because last time this and this and this and this and this happened. So I would appreciate if you could just share what's going on for real. And you're able to have that one conversation where you get the answer, where you get the acknowledgement, and you actually find out the truth. Because until then, you were assuming stuff. Nothing was happening, but you were assuming that something was happening. Maybe, as a possible case. And all of a sudden, you're able to have the conversation with that person where you're like, oh, I actually feel safe. It was all in my imagination. I assumed so much. I'm so happy you're so good with me. And you're actually like, oh my God, you are so hard in all of these triggers. And that one conversation you were able to have where you allow yourself to be vulnerable, where you tell the other person how you feel. And again, in one specific scenario, there can be so many, and it would be great if I could address all of them. But literally, removing the agreements is just a start. We have to get practical. We have to work at changing the situation, at changing how we react, at changing how we communicate. And that little change, like if you just remove agreements and don't do anything in action, as in get into that situation again to see if it's going to change or not. Well, it might be like who are there in the background still triggering you because you work on beliefs and agreements, but you don't see anything happening for real. And until you get into that situation, you're going to keep on bringing it up, and see no result because you never got to see yourself act or get the result out of it. So removing agreements and getting into a situation where you can like practically see yourself do something different, be able to communicate, be able to act differently, maybe finally say no, maybe you're able to draw boundaries. And hey, I'm no longer gonna go out with you or do this thing or like whatever, but you're able to change something that you couldn't do before. It's about getting out of your comfort zone, changing the story that you've lived before, seeing different things happening. So that's another thing. There's also spiritual pushback, where it's not just like your comfort zone and you fighting yourself and everything you've been creating before, but some people are actually targeted. If they believe in that, and that's the story they've been experiencing, then they might go into, well, entities, aliens, some groups, having a conspiracy theory about like, there's a group targeting me and doing this to me. Good, you're aware of that. So once you're trying to lift off some of the agreements, like get rid of them, take care of your life, you see that you're being attacked again and triggered in different ways, maybe. Like, for example, in the past, every time I would try to connect with clients and help them out, there would be a lot of interferences. And, like emails would not go through and all of these calls, like timing or technology, just getting weird on my side, on their side. And I would have these agreements where we're going to have a session and there's going to be issues connecting, issues with getting together. And then like removing these agreements all of a sudden lifted up a lot of like technical issues where, like my internet is like freaking great, like 1 gigabyte a second, never goes wrong. And all of a sudden there's a session, boom, that works. Like, what the hell, So being able to just like change my beliefs, or even like in the airports, every time I travel, all of the computer systems stop working. What the hell, I just like, let me through. I want to go see some places and like it just all stops working and I can't get through. So even while standing there in the airport and like, hey, I agree that I'm unable to travel. I agree that everything's not working and all these things I revoke, and boom, things start turning on and like working and like I can finally move. Good. So with all of that, addressing groups that might be messing with you, addressing the entities, addressing possible ETs, addressing, spirit, like people from past lives, and getting rid of them or making some deals with them, like getting rid of the agreements you have with them, like getting deeper into those things, because you lived before and coming into this life, so you have had some agreements with others. For example, in past, you've had a lover before, and you agreed like, hey, you and me together forever. And then you end up incarnating here on Earth. You forgot your lover, you don't have any memories of them, and you try to get into a relationship here and nothing seems to work. People just look weird at you, or you try to get into a relationship and it just goes sideways. They get close and all of a sudden they switch like 180 degrees and like they act differently, and you're like, why? What happened? I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. Every action you look at, like nothing could have triggered them, but they just changed instantly. And it's actually a lover from your past life that you agreed with, that you and me together forever. And they're like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Cheating on me? You promised. And then they, are able to mess with someone else's beliefs, someone else's feeling states. They get in the way and you see your relationships falling apart. You don't see anything going on in your life that, could improve things. Damn. So we would have to address groups or beings that are interfering with our life here currently. So there's that. And yeah, There's a whole lot more, but if you feel like, you've ever done the soul contract revocation and felt like results were worse, feel free to share your experience in the comments and we can look at what happened, what's the case, and what we can do to fix the situation. So thank you for sharing, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.